Hi friends, this video is about polynomial long division and is going to go over how to divide polynomials like this lovely cubic trinomial by binomials like n minus 4. But to get started, I'd like to back up a little bit and just review quickly how we divide numbers using long division. So I'm going to just make up a number here, something like, there we go. Okay, so I've just made up a number that and I'm going to just review the steps that we use for numeric long division so that we have a model in our head for what we're going to do with the polynomial long division. So if you'll remember, the first thing that I'm going to do is I'm going to ask myself, how many times does 7 go into the smallest number that I can sort of get 7 to go into? So 7 won't go into 4, but 7 will go into 43 some number of times. So my first step here is I'm going to divide essentially 43 by 7. And 7 times 6, right? 7 goes into 43 6 times. And so then I'm going to take that 6 and I'm going to multiply it back by the 7. So I'm going to multiply the 6 times the 7, and 6 times 7 is 42. And I'm going to write that directly underneath the 43, and so then I'm going to subtract those two values, 43, take away 42. Notice I'm subtracting 2 from 3, which is 1, and I'm subtracting 4 from 4, which is nothing, so I'm not going to write anything in that column. And then the last step here is that I'm going to bring down the next number because 7 won't go into 1, so I'm going to need sort of more values here. So I'm going to bring down this 0. 7 will go into 10, and so this has essentially brought me back up to the beginning of this algorithm to dividing. So I'm asking myself, 7 goes into 10, how many times? It goes in once. 1 times 7 is 7. Subtracting, that gives me 3. Bringing down is a 1. So I just went through those steps another time. Go back up to the top. 7 goes into 31. How many times? Goes in 4 times. I multiply. 7 times 4 is 28. I subtract. 31 minus 28 is 3. I bring down the 2. I go back up to the top. 7 goes into 32 4 times. 4 times 7 is 28. I subtract. 32 minus 28 is 4. And so now I have a remainder of 4. So I'm going to write this as a fraction. I have 4 sevenths, 4 being the remainder. Over what I was dividing by, so over the 7th. Okay? So we're going to use these same steps for numerical long division, but we're going to use them for polynomial long division. So if we take a look at the polynomial problem, I'm just going to bring our steps along for the sake of reference. Oh, the polynomial long division went along for the ride. Okay, so the first thing we're going to do, well, I guess the first thing we need to do is really set up our problem before we get into this algorithm. Okay, and so in order to set up the problem, I need to figure out what goes outside the house. So what we're dividing by, n minus 4, goes outside what I like to refer to as the long division house. Okay. And now I'm going to put the polynomial that we're dividing into inside the long division house. Which brings me to another point that I wanted to make about this number that I picked. So notice here, what I'm dividing by, 43,012. This 0 here is, even though it doesn't have a value in that spot, it's still holding the hundredths place. 43,012 is not the same as 4,312. Right? That 0 might be 0, but it's still holding a place. It still has a place value and is serving a purpose. So when I look at a problem like this, I've got to make sure that all of my place values are accounted for. So here I have n to the 3rd power, but I'm essentially missing the next term, right? There's no n to the second power. So I need to somehow represent that space when I lay out my problem, right? I need to make sure all of the places, all of the spaces are accounted for, or all of the terms are accounted for. And so in this sense, I have really 0 of these n to the second places filled in. So when I write my value, I'm going to write n to the third plus 0 n to the second, so that I've got all of my places accounted for. Third power, second power, first degree, which will be negative 16n, and 0th degree, or constant, will be plus 3. Okay? So now I've got all of my places accounted for, and now I can go ahead and start this long division. So here, instead of dividing by the numbers, I'm going to actually divide I'm really kind of just focusing on the first term here, or on the variable term here. So I'm going to divide n to the third divided by n. And n to the third divided by n is n to the second. So in my n to the second column, I'm going to write n to the second. Step 2 is now going to be to multiply, but instead of multiplying the numbers like I was before, I'm going to multiply this n to the second by what we're dividing by, which is the binomial n minus 4. So when I multiply, I'm going to actually distribute this n squared into that binomial. So I'm going to get n to the third, which I'll put in the n to the third column, and then negative 4n squared, which will go in the n squared column. Everything's lined up, so now I'm going to go ahead and subtract. I'm going to be pretty careful here, because when I'm subtracting, I'm actually subtracting both terms of this binomial. So n to the third minus n to the third is 0, or gone, so I'm not going to write anything here. But 0n squared minus negative 4n squared is essentially like saying positive 4n squared. So that's going to give me positive 4n squared in this column. Now I'm going to bring down my next term, which is this negative 16n, and then I'm going to go back up to the top and start again. So now I'm dividing 4n squared by n. So 4n squared, so n goes into 4n squared, positive 4n times. Again, it's in the 4n column. And then I'm going to multiply 4n times n minus 4. So 4n times n is 4n squared. And 4n times negative 4 is negative 16n. Now I'm going to subtract, and I'm going to subtract both terms, making sure to distribute that minus sign. So 4n squared minus 4n squared is nothing. And negative 16n plus 16n is also 0n. I'm going to write the 0n down because I want to have my binomial for the next space. So I'm going to write this 0n and then bring down the plus 3. So each step, you'll sort of notice I'm eliminating one place. If both places are eliminated, I kind of force the second value, or I force that place to be held by giving it the 0n. So 0n plus 3, I'm going to ask myself n times what gives me 0n, and obviously that's plus 0. So now I multiply, and that will give me 0n minus 0. And I'm going to then subtract both terms. So I'm distributing that minus sign, so this essentially becomes a plus. It doesn't really matter because it's 0, and so I have 3 as my remainder. And so I'm going to write my remainder as a fraction, 3 over n minus 4. Okay. So those are the essential steps for polynomial long division. Please practice it and pay particular attention to the signs when you are in the subtraction step. Enjoy. Thanks so much.